Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Zoom meeting. I would like to begin giving an overview of what we will be discussing. The purpose of our meeting is to explore key concepts from social cognition and attitudes and to think about these ideas, how they relate to our work in teaching. We'll share some of our own experiences, discuss teaching strategies, and the things that work and don't work don't work for us. Before we dive in, I would like to you guys introduce yourselves and tell us your name, where you're from, and where you're teaching.
I'm sorry.
You-
I'll keep shutting my video off because I'm not feeling so well right now. But my name is Israel Navarrete. I work at Holton Middle School in Holton, Kansas, teaching social studies. Uh, yeah, that's it.
I'm Heather Lieber, and I am teaching FACS or Family Consumer Sciences in Osage City, USD 420. I have mostly high school students, but I have a couple classes that have middle school students in it.
I'm Corinna. I teach music and ninth grade English music classes. I have 6th through 12th grades, and I'm in Moscow, Kansas.
And I'm Tatiana Larson. I teach art in Art Magnet School. It's grades K to 8, and the name of the school is Gordon Parks Academy in Wichita, Kansas.
Awesome. So our first question was describe the concepts in the social cognition and attitudes and what stood out to us and why it stood out to us. Did you guys have anything that stood out to you?
I liked the part of where it says hot cognition. It's the influence of motivations, mood, and desires on social judgment. I feel like that's very big in schools because puberty, everyone's got a lot of mood swings and attitudes. So
Yeah.
I like the one that says when we have these directional goals, we that's one of the I don't know the words in red. What were they? They're one of the concepts. Was directional goals. It says we are motivated to reach a particular outcome or judgment and do not process information in a cold, objective manner. So basically, we run on our feelings. And I feel like I see that all the time in the classroom. So
Mhm. I see that, especially my middle school students. I have a couple that are severely autistic, and they come in the afternoon, and if they're tired, um, then they do not want
Okay.
anything to do with class. So I think that mood, um, congr the mood, participation, and all of that is very, very like what you had said, Corinne.
How about you talked about your autistic students? I have one that uses it to his advantage. Like no names, but just the other day, I'm autistic and I'm dumb. I don't know, so I can't do this, and uses it for their advantage. Um, I think that's part of the uh where we have to learn to differentiate between the really autistic ones that can't and the ones that just use it as an excuse.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's really hard sometimes for me to figure out who I should be focusing on the most
Mm,
because there's some of those students that have mixed abilities, autistic or ADHD or different kind of spectrum. And
hmm
then it takes so much time. And then there's the ones that are thriving and they're on task doing what they're
Mhm.
supposed to be doing, but then they don't have enough stimulation. They could go at a much faster pace. And it's hard for me to be, when I'm a new teacher, to figure out how to engage everyone the right way and how to be on top of people's IEPs and requirements for what they need. And since I'm teaching kindergarten to eighth grade, like keeping up with the numbers and the names and all the things that they need is really hard. When I first started teaching, I had all these ideas and I'm gonna help them to become better people. And now I'm just struggling with discipline and just the very basic things like
To
distract.
stay above water, right?
Yeah, it distracts me from the high goals that I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all seem to want to like take on the world whenever we have all these ideas, and then I kind of used that whole Mike Tyson phrase the other day in class. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face, and jumping into a classroom where there is uh, well, for instance, I have a whole class where it's just all the special needs students, and yeah, you know which ones are, and it's very hard to keep control of the class. Um, but yeah,
And I have kids, my own children, is my older son, he 9, he's an autism spectrum. Our younger son has ADHD and dyslexia. So I was like, I I have this, like I know, I can support him. I understand, I can empathize, but it's still very difficult to give him all that they need, and they don't trust me that I have the good intention. So I feel like I had social prediction and what they call it, like a slice judgment that I'm gonna know how to do this because I have personal experience with it, but their needs are so much different and unique to what I have been
yeah,
through with my kids.
most definitely, yeah, yeah.
So, that kind of sounds like I mean, it talked about motivated skepticism and how, you may be the expert, but people still are like, I'm not gonna believe you. And
Oh
that's kind
yeah.
of what that sounds like.
I came from not, of course, I was most of my teaching experience has been in ESL, so working with English language learners, and so I get that also. Where if the student doesn't speak any English, they expect me to be the expert, and like I still got to understand that student. It's the same way, no matter how well you have training in a certain thing. Um, it's going to be different with everybody. The spectrum's going to be so wide, and I understand what it was Tatiana, right? I understand what you were saying with that. I mean, I associated that with, like I said, me being an ESL teacher first, and moving to social studies and just having a few ESL students.
Yeah.
Have you
Sometimes,
guys had,
mhm,
go
go ahead.
ahead, sorry.
I was just also thinking about the effective forecasting and bias. Like I feel like some certain things in the past, from my experience, teaching as an adjunct, like I thought I know what interesting topics are and what would make them excited and how they can use it in life. And but then when I actually do it, and I was like, make your lessons engaging, make sure they're engaging. But like, how do we judge that they will be engaging? And then if we already put all the work into the lesson and the kids they're not actually interested, like how to overcome that. And then sometimes the content is not always interesting, but I just want them to know things, like a little bit of theory. I mean, art is about making, but I want to teach them about color theory and um, elements of design, and they're like, "Why are you teaching us this?" So how to make things interesting and explain that they will need it, but it's like they can't see the end goal, even if I the discipline kind of overshadows my attempts to make them passionate about it.
Yeah.
Mm.
I know, like for me, I have tried to make, like, my big goal was, like, I know that there's going to be a lot of lectures and stuff, and it was to be more hands-on and more interactive, um, and have that impact. So I've come across like different like notes where they like can color, and I've done some research, and research says that like it stimulates their brain, so they may not be really technically taking notes, but they might be doodling or coloring, and it like still it's stimulating to them that um it's still out if it works or not in my situation. But the students seem to enjoy having that little extra um doodling notes or coloring piece. So might be worth a shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to do things that are when it's just rote information, like vocab words, or in my music classes, just music theory. What is a quarter note? Like, I like to do games for really basic information like that, because I mean that's a good way to memorize it, so they're not just getting it pounded in their head every day, like lecturing, just rote, boring things. So I do a lot of games in my class, and it seems to help them to be engaged. Sometimes they're just feeling lazy and they don't even want to get up and play a game, but I can't help that. That's just
So,
Right.
oh, interesting. Oh, go ahead, Israel.
Oh, I'm sorry. The thing I run into is, I'm now in a middle school that has block scheduling. So
Mhm.
I have an hour and 25 minutes with these students. I came from a 50-minute class, um, teaching, 8 classes a day, 50 minutes a day or something like that. Oh, once my lecture time is done, they have entirely too much time on their hands, and some of them want to get all their work done so fast so they can socialize, and I have to figure something out when it comes to working with the especially with the ones that have the IEPs and whatnot. So, actually, I'm sorry, who was the one that was talking about the games?
Karina.
Karina? Yeah, Karina. I actually teach a class called Strategic Games. They kind of added that into my schedule, and that one's only like a 1 hour one. But I'm like, how do I teach strategic games? Do I just let them play games, or you know?
That sounds cool. Israel, I was like, if you figure it out, send us all your resources.
Right, right.
I, I need more ideas for games that kids like. Because sometimes I play a game and there's a kid that wins, and some kindergartners left crying because they lost. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, you can't please everybody.
but that's
Well,
another thing you need to learn.
I taught my nephew how to play chess. He's on this autistic spectrum. Um, but I taught him how to play chess, and the kid can beat me now, like fast. And so I'm like, how? If I can't even know how to develop my own strategies to play games, anyway, yeah. I'm sorry, I interrupted somebody.
Yeah, it's okay. Heather, would you mind reading some of
So we kind of talked about a couple of them already, I believe.
Mhm.
What stood out to us and why. And then we talked about how we've seen those concepts at school or at work. I feel like we've touched on that as well. The next one was teaching strategies you have adopted or tried in light of these experiences. I think we've really we've touched a little bit on that unless somebody has other things to add to that.
Mhm.
I know that like for me, I'm teaching a lot of like life skills right now, and so we've been working on growth mindset and how to have a positive mind and being open to new things. And um I know a lot of the social cognition information, it talks about our preconceived thoughts of people and things. And so the growth mindset, I guess maybe it opens their eyes, or maybe helps them see that everyone is not the same, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I had a student on Thursday. One of my little uh, athletes play football. He copped an
mhm,
attitude in class. Um, it took a lot for me to finally say, okay, I'm going to give you a lunch detention. That just sent him out on a like very upset, and so um he kept going at me. So finally, I said, "Are you really looking for an after school detention on a game day?" And again, he kept going. So I ended up giving him 30 minutes after school. I said, "I don't think your coaches are going to like the way you are." Well, this class is split up for lunch. There's a 30-minute break for that class for lunch. And when they came back, I changed my lesson plan around a little bit just to gear it towards the athletes in that classroom, the football players. That's a classroom that has about, I think I have 20 in there, and like 12 of them are football players. And so I turned the kind of switched that lesson plan. You said you're a teaching strategy, so I kind of turned it into a coaching lesson. And the big thing I did put in there, I said, an uncoachable kid becomes an unemployable adult. When I was giving a lesson on choices and consequences, which is one of our standards for social studies. And I mean, I'll tell you what, that class turned around that last 30 minutes of class. The next day, that student came in and was apologizing to me. He's like, I understand what you're trying to say and what you're trying to do. And he goes, I apologize for my behavior. So, I mean, sometimes you have to adapt to who you are teaching.
mhm.
Maybe that's something that I did for changing my strategy up.
I like
I
that.
think that's a great example.
Mhm. I personally have a hard time with sixth grade, and they just come inside the classroom. They're super loud, so I'll take them back out even 3 times to line up again. They come back inside super loud. Like I have so many things to share and to tell them, but the volume just keeps going up so fast that I hardly ever have much time to get into my depth to even tell them something like what Israel was talking about. Like it's like that is a great example, but I don't think I could even get my idea through with them because they just won't be quiet. They won't let me. And I try all these things that other teachers do to discipline them, but they don't care. And I'll call their parents and they have detention and it just keeps escalating. And they just keep doing this stuff. I don't know why. Like
Yeah,
they just respond to certain teachers like immediately when they walk in the room.
can I
And
can I make a suggestion for you?
yeah, yeah.
In my class that I have the behavior students and the IEP students, and that I've allowed them to actually use headphones to listen to music, and it's kind of more laid back with them. And I call them up like in smaller groups, individual groups, maybe one-on-one basis to work with them, and they get what I'm trying to get to. um they get to the where they understand, and I kind of try to intrigue them with making it more like a story time than a lecture, and they seem to enjoy that. I mean, it's something you might want to try. The music kind of calms the behaviors down, and they don't shout at each other from across the room when they have their own personal music going on.
Yeah, that's true, but what do they listen to if you wanna, you need 5 minutes to explain the new concept and a little bit of lecture and explain the project. Like you still need to tell them something. Stay
Yeah, that's
there.
what that's why I pull them like one-on-one or maybe two-on-one. Just okay, and then I get the ones that weren't going to start talking to one another at a time. And since I have all that extra free time, that class kind of works with me because I give them a project to do. Like this last project was they remade the Kansas seal on the flag. Um, Modernized it because it's got all these things that we don't have in Kansas anymore. But anyway, I let them kind of just do their own thing, show their artistic side. You're the art teacher. I told them show your artistic side,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I gave them let them use the music, and they just went at it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pull this person. I'm gonna talk to them. I mean, it's a smaller class too, so that only works like if you do have a smaller class. I think there's like 12 students in that class,
We have
compared to the
20,
rest.
we have 25.
Ouch. Yeah. Eh,
could you go into their, are they coming from like a homeroom or something?
Not the sixth
Not
graders.
the sixth graders.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, could you go to that classroom and have that conversation with them before they move to your room? I don't know.
Um,
But
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know that sixth graders have a place that they all meet. Maybe they do. I'm just so new. Like,
sure.
also didn't go to the school system here myself when I was younger, so I'm very oblivious to certain things because I didn't even go to schools myself.
I sometimes use a seating chart and I'll just change them around. If they're getting too talkative, I'll give them a warning, and I don't usually have a chart for every day. But when they're acting up, I'll be like, hey, if you don't quiet down, I'm gonna have to move you guys from your friends. And if they quiet down, I won't do it. But and then I haven't gotten to where I'll do it every single day. Make them sit where I want them to sit because they haven't been that crazy yet. But if they were wild all the time, I would make them sit, and I would make some of them sit up next to me if they needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sitting chart definitely helps, but I have a hard time keeping up with it. If I have so many grades, I'm sure you guys have a lot of grades too, but I get very overstimulated myself when they come in, and I try to make sure they're not too loud and just keeping up. If they're all sitting in the right spot, it's very difficult for me to do all the different things all at once. But hopefully, I don't know. How do you stay on task and make sure that even if you don't know all their names, that they're coming and sitting in the right spot?
I usually sit them down in alphabetical order,
Hmm.
or I tell them I won't give you an assigned seat until you make me give you an assigned seat, and that usually is by the second class. You'll get to know which ones are really tight with which ones. Unfortunately, on some of my classes, it doesn't seem like I could move a student to a corner and they'll be probably carrying a conversation with the wall. So, um, I don't know. Uh, but yeah, sitting them alphabetical order, kind of helps in the beginning, and then from there you could take it and just move certain people. Alphabetical also helps you remember who's who
Yeah.
as you're calling roll or whatnot. So.
Or could you, maybe another, I mean, more fun way would be like, if you, depending on what you're teaching, like maybe it's the color wheel or something. Like if you're wearing blue today, you're going to sit at this table, or if you're wearing red, you're going to sit at this table. And I, I
Yeah.
mean, that's not necessarily a seating arrangement, but it might get them a little bit more interactive in the beginning,
Hmm.
or it might, I guess it could be the opposite effect too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, that sounded great, actually.
Yeah.
Oh.
I
So
don't know. You could do tallest to shortest, or just something silly, but like they could be in their chairs at some point.
yeah. So we have about 7 minutes left. So we need to come up with some ideas to wrap it up. What are some main takeaways, I guess, you guys have from this um, second module and the topics that we discussed?
You have Go ahead. I'm sorry. I talk too much.
I think that the main thing is that we all come in with our preconceived ideas about each other, including the teachers. Like I come in expecting the students to act a certain way, and they come in expecting me to be a certain way. And when we don't always meet those expectations, like if someone's not feeling well or they're having a bad day and they're in a bad mood or whatever, like how well do we let that affect us, and vice versa. So I think that was kind of the biggest thing that I took away from it, even more than the more statistic stuff.
Mhm.
I like the trying to get to their level on an individual basis, make it with where you can like develop a personal relationship with that student and kind of um I know it's difficult when you have a bigger class, and so like my classes aren't too big, so uh I know what works for me type of thing, uh, and offer suggestions, but
Um,
Yeah, I think that the biggest takeaway for me is that the way we act is and the way we perceive people or things are due to, I mean, the way we've been brought up and maybe our values that we've had, what motivates us and how we're feeling that day and that sort of thing.
yeah, I see what you're saying. Um, we kind of expect something because that's how we were brought up and taught, and uh, just like everything, people evolve into different. I actually shared the story the other day about ADHD. I said I think I had it before it was even a diagnosis. And I gave them the example of when I was in third grade, and I told them that I was held back in third grade, and I said it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I felt more prepared for what I was doing, and I was able to pay better attention and things like that. But yeah, I totally agree with you
Mhm.
that, that we have to really adopt different strategies and adapt to the new form of the education system we have and the students that are actually coming through it. Because I don't remember there being this many when I was growing up, with the, with IEPs.
yeah.
Right.
And I do think that there's actually a lot more students that have more problems that could be, the food, the sources, and different things affecting the new generation and
Yeah.
the screens and all the different things. So they have a lot more challenges, I think, um, than we did.
They're exposed to a lot more
And their attention span
screens.
is a lot shorter because of the environment, and we just have to work with it somehow, figure out
Yeah.
what works and adapt, and still somehow inspire them so they can become the best human beings that they can and follow their passions. They don't just settle for things that, pay a lot of money or different jobs, but to actually follow what they're good at so they can be happy when they grow up.
So is this like everybody's first year teaching, or is this like further for you guys?
I was teaching before, although I feel like I haven't, but I was teaching part-time in college. It's not the same thing. And I honestly, now looking at all these teaching strategies, I knew nothing. And I wish there was some required training for college teachers to how to become better teachers because they don't actually have to take these courses that we have to take to be teaching in public schools. So I am learning as if I was a brand new teacher, although I have taught before.
Well, it's a different ballgame when you're teaching with younger students. I kind of have been blessed in that area because before I was teaching, I'm a youth pastor, uh, so I have that kind of ability to connect with that age group. So um, I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be actually. So
All right. We have about a minute and a half. You guys have any last thoughts, takeaways, or share any questions or areas of uncertainty coming from where you are now?
I don't have any, but I feel like I need to tell you, don't give up.
Yeah.
It can be overwhelming sometimes, but you'll get to where eventually you'll be whelmed, not over or under, you'll just be whelmed. So
Yeah. Well, anybody else want to add anything?
Thank you, Tatiana, for getting this all scheduled and
Oh.
organized for us.
Well, thank you, Heather, for having the notes in front of you. Keeping us,
Teamwork.
yeah, teamwork. Well, good luck to
thank you
everybody.
all, and appreciate this. You guys ever need anything, and we'll probably have another one of these sessions or something be down the line somewhere. But if you guys ever need anything or questions.